Celeste Rivas, the teenager in the Tesla, September 2025. In a city impound lot in Los Angeles, a dark-colored Tesla sits quietly among hundreds of other towed cars. No one there realizes that inside this car lies the secret of one of the most shocking cases in America that year. The car is registered to a young, very popular artist, a singer with millions of streams and followers across social media. But the main character of this story is not the celebrity, it is a 15-year-old girl, Celeste Rivas, also known as Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Celeste lived in the Lake Elsinore area of California. Her family describes her as an active teenager with a turbulent life. In the months before everything happened, they reported her missing multiple times, then reported that she had come back home again. According to various reports, Celeste moved around a lot, connecting with other young people, traveling between cities and counties. These details later became important because they made it extremely difficult to reconstruct her final days. In early 2025, Celeste was still seen by people who knew her and still in contact with them. But after a certain point early in the year, the clear documented traces of her begin to thin out and then disappear almost entirely. Her family at times reported her missing, and at times hoped she would just walk back through the door as she had done before. For many runaway teens, that gray zone between she left for a while and she is in real danger is a painful gap for both families and authorities. On a different branch of the story, the Tesla linked to singer D4D is towed by authorities because of a traffic or administrative issue and taken to a city impound lot in Los Angeles. For days, it is just another car sitting in a long row of seized vehicles. The people working at the lot have no idea that in the front trunk of this Tesla, there is a body slowly decomposing. No one hears cries for help. No one hears anything unusual at all. Everything only comes to light when police decide to thoroughly search the vehicle. On September 8, 2025, officers inspect the Tesla. In the front trunk, they find a black bag. Inside that bag lies the body of a teenage girl, already in an advanced state of decomposition. Identification later confirms that the victim is Celeste Rivas Hernandez, about 15 years old. This information quickly appears in major news bulletins, then spreads across online media and social networks. At first, the public only knows this as the body of a teenager found in the car of a famous singer. But very quickly, the Los Angeles Police Department confirms they are treating the case as a homicide investigation, not just an unexplained death. According to several major outlets, singer D4VD is considered a suspect or at least a person of interest. Yet by the end of 2025, no criminal charges have been publicly filed against him. Lawyers, representatives, and labels around him react immediately. Some brands and music partners announce that they are pausing cooperation while they wait for the investigation's outcome. Almost as soon as the case breaks, the internet fills up with rumors. Some claim the body was frozen, decapitated, or treated in extremely horrific ways. These shocking details spread quickly across TikTok, X, and true crime forums. Later, statements linked to the medical examiner and police contradict some of the most extreme claims. Reports say that Celeste's body was not frozen and not dismembered in the ways that social media had described. The gap between official information and public curiosity proves to be the perfect breeding ground for exaggeration and fabrication. Another twist makes the case even more mysterious. A court order limits what the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner can release about the cause of death. This means that the full autopsy findings, cause of death, specific injuries, and detailed condition of the body are not made public while the investigation is ongoing. From a legal perspective, this is not unheard of. Officials argue that revealing too much information too early could compromise the investigation or future court proceedings. But for an online audience, especially those already skeptical of institutions, this decision looks like yet another layer of secrecy. While official channels stay mostly silent, Celeste's family and at least one private investigator try to put pieces of the puzzle together. They talk about the times she left home and about the dangerous environments that vulnerable teenagers can fall into. Unbalanced relationships, parties, substances, and people who prey on minors. A private investigator has shared some additional context about where Celeste was seen and who she might have been with in her final months. But most of these points remain leads. not hard conclusions. By the end of 2025, no one has been formally charged in connection with Celeste's death, and no court has declared anyone guilty. In the end, three big questions remain. First, where and when did Celeste actually die? Second, who placed her body into the Tesla, and how did that car leave the original scene and end up sitting quietly in an impound lot for days? Third, what exactly is written in the sealed autopsy report, and what will the world learn if it is ever unsealed? Until those questions are answered in a courtroom or an official statement, the death of Celeste Rivas remains one of the most tragic and controversial stories in America in 2025. At the center of all the noise, beyond the arguments over fame, money, and power, it is important to remember one simple fact. This is not just a story about a celebrity. It is, first of all, the story of a 15-year-old girl who never got the chance to grow up. 2. The disappearance of Okesa Ray. A grandmother vanishes by the lake, March 2025. On the south side of Chicago, the wind coming off Lake Michigan is still cold. In the neighborhood of South Shore, a 73-year-old grandmother leaves her home to run a simple errand. Her name is Okesa Ray. She walks to a nearby convenience store, the kind of small neighborhood shop she has probably visited hundreds of times. Security cameras capture her inside the store, moving slowly but steadily, picking up what she needs. For the people there that day, nothing seems unusual. She pays, she walks toward the exit, and then she steps out of the frame. That is the last confirmed image anyone has of her alive. When Okesa does not come home, her family notices quickly. This is not a woman who disappears for hours without telling anyone. She is 73. She has a routine. She has people who expect her to come back through that door. At first, there is confusion. Maybe she stopped somewhere on the way. Maybe she ran into a friend. But as the hours pass, the confusion begins to turn into fear. Her family contacts the Chicago Police Department and reports her missing. Officers begin with the basic steps, checking hospitals, checking with friends and relatives, reviewing any nearby cameras that might have caught her after she left the store. They confirm what the family already knows. The last clear image is of her walking out of that convenience store in South Shore. The search moves outward from there. South Shore is only a short walk from the edge of Lake Michigan. Somewhere between the shop and the shoreline, something has gone wrong. Before long, investigators make a disturbing discovery. They find Okesa's phone damaged on the ground near the lake. The screen is broken. It is not neatly placed. It looks as if it has been dropped or thrown. K9 units are brought in. The dogs pick up a scent and follow it toward the water's edge. To many people, this suggests the possibility of a tragic accident, or something worse, hidden by the lake itself. Divers are called to search the water, but they do not find a body. There are no witnesses who clearly saw a woman matching her description of fall, jump, or be pushed. There is no clear piece of video that shows her path from the convenience store to the shoreline. Between the last camera frame and the edge of the lake, she simply disappears. Theories begin to form, but they are only that, theories. One possibility is that Okesa suffered a sudden medical emergency and collapsed somewhere out of view, then ended up in the water. Another is that she became disoriented, wandered too close to the edge, and slipped. For a woman in her 70s, a fall into cold March water could be fatal in minutes. But there is also the darker possibility that someone else was involved. The broken phone, the lack of clear eyewitnesses in a fairly populated area. For those who are close to her, it is hard to believe that she would simply walk into the lake or vanish without some kind of confrontation. The problem is that there is no solid proof for any of these scenarios. No weapon, no obvious signs of a struggle on camera, no recovered remains that can be tied to her. The case sits in a painful space between missing person and presumed tragedy. As days turn into weeks, Okesa's family refuses to let her name fade from public view. They organize searches in the neighborhood. They put up flyers and posters with her photo, a 73-year-old woman, a familiar grandmotherly face. Local churches and community groups in South Shore join in, holding prayer circles and gatherings to keep attention on the case. True crime blogs and cold case sites begin to pick up the story. To them, this is exactly the kind of mystery that haunts people. An ordinary person in an ordinary place, doing something completely normal, and then gone. On social media, people share the security camera stills of her in the store, walking toward the exit. Viewers fixate on those last few seconds as if staring hard enough might reveal a clue that everyone else has missed. But each replay ends the same way. She steps out of frame and the footage stops. For investigators, the case is not just emotionally heavy, it is technically difficult. Without a crime scene, without a body, and with only a narrow time window, there is very little physical evidence to work with. The damaged phone is one of the only tangible objects they have, and even that raises more questions than answers. Did someone throw it? Did it break when it hit the concrete? Was it damaged before she reached the lake? Or did it fall from her hand in a last panicked moment? The Chicago police list her as a missing person. Her case is one among many on the department's public bulletins and missing persons pages. But for her family, it is not one case among thousands. It is their mother, their grandmother, the person who should be sitting at the kitchen table, complaining about the weather or asking about the grandkids. Months later, there is still no confirmed trace of Okesa Ray. No remains washed ashore that can be identified as hers. No new witness who suddenly remembers seeing her that day. No camera from a nearby building that happens to catch her walking by. The story for now ends in the same place where the trail seems to end. At the invisible line where sidewalk becomes shoreline, and solid ground gives way to dark water. For the community in South Shore, the image of a 73-year-old woman simply vanishing on a short walk to the store is unsettling. For her family, it is something worse than fear. It is the emptiness of not knowing. Until someone finds a new piece of evidence, until the lake gives up a secret, or until a witness finally speaks, the disappearance of Okesa Ray remains an unanswered question. Not a police file number, a human life that slipped out of frame, leaving behind a broken phone, a grieving family, and a city that still has no idea what really happened between the store and the water's edge. 3. 2 deaths in 11 days. The T. Andrick and Tasha Lawson, case April 2025. In the small town of Glenville, in the state of Georgia, a 20-year-old man is found dead in his bedroom. His name is T. Andrick Lawson. 11 days later, his mother, 48-year-old Tasha Lawson, also dies. Her family says she died of a broken heart. 2 deaths, 1 family, and a long list of questions that still do not have clear answers. To understand why this case shocks so many people, you have to start with who T. Andrick was. Family members describe him as a bright, loving young man, deeply close to his mother. He was part of a tight community, and his relationship with Tasha was more like that of best friends than just mother and son. According to relatives, T. Andrick was open about his sexual orientation. In many parts of the country, this might not draw attention, but in some small towns in the South, being openly queer can still mean facing judgment, harassment, or worse. For his loved ones, this context matters, because from the moment he is found dead, they believe he may have been targeted. On April 2, 2025, T. Andrick is discovered unresponsive in his bedroom at his mother's home. Reports say that he had visible injuries and that his death immediately appeared suspicious. Family members describe signs that suggest violence, not a natural medical issue. Relatives later tell reporters that they believe 2 intruders broke into the home while Tasha was away and attacked her son. They say there had been tensions and threats in the past. In their eyes, this was not random. This was personal. Local authorities begin an investigation. But as the news slowly spreads beyond Glenville, a second tragedy is already forming in the background. In the days following T. Andrick's death, Tasha is shattered. Friends and family recall her crying constantly, unable to sleep, unable to accept what had happened. Her social media, where it exists, becomes a stream of grief and disbelief. She attends vigils and memorials. People remember her saying that life no longer made sense without her son. For a mother who had raised him largely on her own, the loss is not just emotional, it tears away the center of her daily life. On April 13th, just 11 days after finding her son dead, Tasha Lawson dies in the hospital. The reported cause is heart-related complications, a medical event that, on paper, can be classified as natural. To her family, there is nothing natural about it. They say plainly she died of heartbreak. At this point, the story becomes larger than one town. News outlets across the country pick it up. A young man believed to be the victim of a hate-motivated killing, followed by the sudden death of his grieving mother less than 2 weeks later. Advocates and community members begin asking hard questions. Was T. Andrick attacked because of who he was? Had there been warning signs that were not taken seriously? Was enough done quickly enough to protect him? The idea that a mother could die from the emotional shock of losing her child is not just a metaphor here. Doctors know that extreme stress and grief can trigger severe heart problems, especially in someone who may already be vulnerable. In Tasha's case, that connection feels brutally direct. Her son is killed, her heart fails. Meanwhile, the criminal investigation into T. Andrick's death continues. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI, becomes involved. Detectives collect evidence from the home, interview witnesses, and try to track down any possible suspects. But as weeks pass, the public sees very few concrete updates. No named suspect, no arrest publicly announced. Just the assurance that the case is active and ongoing. For the Lawson family, this slow pace feels like a second wound. They believe strongly that T. Andrick was the victim of a hate crime, targeted because of his identity. They say that justice is moving too slowly. Their frustration is shared by many people online, especially within LGBTQ+ communities, who see this case as part of a larger pattern of violence and underprotection. This tension between the family's beliefs and the official, careful language of law enforcement becomes one of the central elements of the story. Investigators are limited in what they can say publicly until they have enough to support charges in court. Families, on the other hand, live with the emotional reality every day. From a legal standpoint, calling something a hate crime requires specific kinds of evidence, proof of motive, proof of bias, and a chain of facts that can survive cross-examination at trial. From a human standpoint, many people feel they already know what happened the moment they look at who T. Andrick was and what he had been facing. Between those two realities, a gap opens up, and that gap gets filled with anger, fear, and an almost desperate need for answers. Visuals from vigils show family members holding photos of both mother and son. Candles line the steps of a church or a community hall. People speak their names together, T. Andrick and Tasha. Two lives linked in love and in death. For people far from Glenville following the story online, certain images linger. A young man dead in the one place that should have been safe, his own home. A mother gone days later after her world collapses. A community worried that the very reason for the attack might never be fully recognized in a courtroom. As of the latest public reporting, T. Andrick's death remains under investigation as a suspicious, likely criminal act. Tasha's death is recorded as heart-related, but in the public's mind, it is permanently tied to her son's final moments. There are still crucial questions with no public answers. Who entered that house? What exactly happened in that bedroom on April 2nd? And will anyone ever stand before a judge and jury to face charges for what was done? Until those questions are resolved, the story of T. Andrick and Tasha Lawson is not just a double tragedy. It is a symbol of how violence can ripple through a family, of how grief can be as fatal as any weapon, and of how, in a small Georgia town, 2 deaths in 11 days can echo across an entire country that is still struggling with the cost of hate and the weight of silence. Their relatives say that wherever the investigation leads, they will keep saying both names together, because for them, the case is not just about how they died. It is about how fiercely they loved each other and how urgently they want the world to finally pay attention. 4. Jennifer Kesse, the woman who vanished on her way to work. January 24th, 2006. 24-year-old Jennifer Kesse leaves her apartment complex in Orlando, Florida for her morning routine. She is a successful sales executive, living independently with a predictable schedule. She drives her black Chevrolet Malibu to work every day at the same time. That morning, she never arrives at her office. Her co-workers notice her absence. They call her phone. No answer. By midday, her employer reports her missing to the police. Jennifer's car is found later that same day, parked 2 miles away from her apartment at a Huntington on the Green condominium complex. The keys are in the ignition. Her purse and identification are inside. Everything looks normal, except Jennifer is gone. Police arrive quickly. They secure the vehicle as a crime scene. Inside, they find her ID, credit cards, even her lunch pack for the day. No signs of a struggle in the car itself. No blood, no obvious violence. The real breakthrough, and the haunting image that defines this case, comes from security footage at the condo where the car was found. A grainy black and white video captures a person of interest walking through the complex parking area around the time Jennifer disappeared. The figure is about 5'9", wearing jeans and a t-shirt. They approach her car, get in and drive it away, then return it hours later. But the person's face is completely obscured. A construction fence with horizontal slats runs right across the camera's view, blocking the head and shoulders. All that remains visible are the lower legs and torso, an anonymous shape in khaki pants. The Orlando Police Department launches a massive investigation. They pull every nearby camera, interview dozens of residents and workers at both locations, and canvass the route Jennifer would have taken. Her phone pings one last time near her apartment, then goes dead. Friends and family describe Jennifer as reliable, cautious, and not the type to vanish without a word. She had no known enemies, no troubled relationships. Her life was stable, a new job she loved, an active social circle, plans for the future. Public appeals flood local news. Billboards go up around Orlando with her photo and the words, "Have you seen Jennifer?" The case gets national attention, featured on shows like America's Most Wanted. Years pass, the trail goes cold. Jennifer's parents, Joyce and Drew Kesse, refuse to let the case fade. They create a website, fund private investigations, and pressure authorities for answers. They become fixtures at true crime conventions and media interviews, keeping Jennifer's name alive. By 2016, the case is officially a cold case, but the Kesses never stop. They hire their own investigators, push for advanced DNA testing on evidence from the car, and analyze the parking lot video frame by frame. Then, in 2025, nearly 20 years later, new developments emerge. Florida authorities announce they have reviewed thousands of pages of case files using modern technology. AI-enhanced video analysis sharpens the parking lot footage slightly, though the fence still blocks the face. More crucially, the Kesse family reveals they have obtained new DNA evidence from the car. Touch DNA from the steering wheel, gear shift, and door handles. Genetic genealogy techniques, the same kind used to crack cases like the Golden State Killer, narrow down potential matches. In October 2025, Drew Kesse tells reporters they have identified multiple persons of interest. The list is much shorter than before. Some are construction workers who were at the complex that week. Others are residents or maintenance staff with access to both Jennifer's apartment and the drop-off site. Law enforcement confirms they are re-interviewing these individuals with fresh evidence. Subpoenas go out for updated DNA samples. The case, dormant for years, suddenly feels alive again. Online, the revival sparks a frenzy. True crime YouTubers dissect the enhanced video. Reddit threads explode with speculation about the fence person. TikTok recreates the walk from Jennifer's apartment to the mystery parking lot, timing every step. Theories range from opportunistic abduction by a day laborer to someone Jennifer knew casually who panicked and moved her car to buy time. The Kesses stay disciplined. They stick to verified facts and urge the public to share tips, not guesses. What keeps this case gripping, even almost 2 decades later, is its stark simplicity. Jennifer vanished in broad daylight in a busy urban area during her normal routine. Someone took her car, drove it 2 miles, parked it in plain sight, and walked away, all captured on camera. Yet that same video hides the most critical clue, the face. As of late 2025, Jennifer Kesse remains missing. No body has been found. No one has been charged. But the combination of persistent family advocacy and cutting-edge forensics has brought the case closer to answers than it has been in years. The Orlando police still list it as an active investigation. A dedicated tip line receives calls weekly. The Kesse family says they will never stop until they know what happened in those missing hours on January 24, 2006. Three enduring questions haunt everyone following the story. First, who is the figure behind the fence, and why did they move Jennifer's car? Second, was Jennifer taken from her apartment complex, or did something happen between home and the highway? Third, if DNA has narrowed the suspect pool, will 2025 finally bring the break that ends this two-decade nightmare? For now, Jennifer Kesse's story reminds us how technology can revive the coldest cases, and how determination can keep hope burning when everything else goes dark. One enhanced frame, one DNA match, one anonymous tip. It might be all it takes to bring her home, or at least to give her family the truth they have chased for nearly 20 years. I was Patrick Alford, the boy who vanished in minutes, January 22nd, 2010. In the East New York neighborhood of Brooklyn, 7-year-old Patrick Alford steps out of his family's apartment for a routine chore. He is taking out the trash, a task his mother trusts him with because he always comes right back. The building is a typical urban apartment complex, doors always opening and closing, neighbors coming and going. Patrick walks down the hall, bag in hand. He never returns. In less than 5 minutes, a child disappears from a place that should be safe. Patrick's mother notices almost immediately. She calls his name down the hallway. No answer. She checks the trash chute, the stairwell, the lobby. Panic sets in fast. By evening, the New York City Police Department is fully involved. They treat it as a critical missing child case from the start. Uniformed officers knock on every door in the building. They interview residents, review hallway cameras if any exist, and expand the search block by block. Descriptions go out immediately. A 7-year-old black boy about 4 feet tall, wearing a blue jacket, jeans, and sneakers. His photo, a school picture with a bright smile, circulates on flyers and local news. Amber alerts activate across the region. But as hours turn to days, the trail stays cold. The investigation intensifies quickly. Detectives from the NYPD's Missing Persons Squad lead the effort. They canvass over 1,000 apartments in the building and nearby complexes. They talk to children who might have seen him playing. They check dumpsters, rooftops, abandoned lots. Every place a child that age might end up, accidentally or otherwise. No one saw Patrick after he left that hallway. No camera caught him leaving the building. No phone records or witnesses place him anywhere else. The trash bag is never found. Family friends describe Patrick as shy but happy, close to his siblings, not a wanderer. He had no reason to run away. No known abductor in his life. Just a normal Friday evening that ended in silence. Months pass. The case shifts from active search to long-term investigation. NYPD assigns it to their cold case unit. Tips continue to come in, sightings in other states, reports of a boy matching his description, but none lead anywhere solid. Patrick's family holds annual vigils. His mother speaks to reporters when she can, her voice steady but eyes hollow. They keep his bedroom as it was, toys on the shelf, posters on the wall, a backpack ready for school that never resumed. The story fades from daily headlines but lingers in New York true crime circles. It becomes one of those cases locals whisper about. The boy who vanished from a hallway in broad daylight. Fast forward to January 2025. 15 years to the day since Patrick disappeared, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, publishes a detailed retrospective. They call it a disappearance that shook New York City. The article recaps the timeline, shares enhanced versions of old photos, and renews the public appeal. Local outlets like the New York Daily News and NY1 pick it up. Social media amplifies it. Hashtag Find Patrick Alford trends briefly in Brooklyn hashtags. TikTok videos recreate the hallway walk, timing how fast a 7-year-old could move before reaching the street. NCMEC reveals they have digitized old tips and run them through modern databases. Age-progressed images show what Patrick might look like at 22. Taller, broader, but with the same facial structure. The renewed attention brings in dozens of new leads, which NYPD is quietly vetting. What makes Patrick's case endure and haunt is its sheer impossibility. Urban apartment buildings are full of eyes, neighbors, delivery people, kids playing. Yet no one saw a child carrying a trash bag? Did he make it to the dumpster? Was he grabbed in the stairwell? Or did something far darker unfold in seconds out of sight? Investigators have considered every angle: stranger abduction, someone known to the family, even the grim possibility of an accident covered up. Without a body or physical evidence, theories remain just that. Online discussions fixate on the building itself. Was security lax? Did cameras fail? Could foster care records, Patrick was in the system at times, hold overlooked connections? 15 years later, Patrick Alford's case file remains open and active with the NYPD. NCMEC lists him on their national database. A dedicated tip line receives calls sporadically, even now. His family has aged, but the wound has not healed. They mark January 22nd every year, lighting candles outside the old building, holding his photo high. For them, 15 years is not a statistic. It is 15 birthdays missed, 15 Christmases without him, 15 empty chairs at the table. The 2025 anniversary coverage brings fresh hope and fresh pain. New tips mean new interviews. DNA technology could match unidentified remains someday. Facial recognition might spot an age-progressed image in a crowd. 3 questions still demand answers. First, what happened in those missing minutes between the apartment door and the trash chute? Second, why did no one, not one single person, see a 7-year-old boy that afternoon? Third, after 15 years, is Patrick still alive somewhere? Or did New York lose him forever on a routine errand? The disappearance of Patrick Alford stands as a stark reminder of vulnerability in the places we assume are safe. A hallway in Brooklyn, a trash bag in a small hand, a door that closed behind him, and a family still waiting for it to open again. Until someone remembers, speaks up, or a forgotten clue surfaces, Patrick's story remains Brooklyn's longest-running mystery. A child's life suspended in the space of a few heartbeats, forever out of reach. 6. Michelle Vanek, the hiker who vanished on the mountain. October 2005. Michelle Vanek, 36 years old, sets out for a day hike on Mount of the Holy Cross in Colorado. She is experienced, fit, and familiar with the trails. An avid outdoorswoman, she hikes regularly with friends and knows the mountain's dangers well. This is supposed to be a routine outing with a hiking companion. They start together early morning. The weather is clear, visibility is good. They follow a marked trail up the steep slopes. At some point, Michelle stops briefly, maybe to tie her boot, adjust her pack, or take a photo. Her friend continues ahead for just a few minutes. When they look back, Michelle is gone. The friend searches immediately, calling her name into the wind. No response. They backtrack along the trail, checking switchbacks and rocky outcrops. Panic rises as minutes turn to hours. By afternoon, rescue teams are mobilized. Colorado Search and Rescue deploys helicopters, ground crews, and trained dogs. They scour the mountain for days, ridges, ravines, creeks below the trail. Drones were not standard then, but infrared scans and manpower cover miles of rugged terrain. Michelle's description goes statewide. 5'6", brown hair, wearing hiking boots, a blue jacket, and carrying a red backpack. Her car remains parked at the trailhead, untouched. No sightings, no clothing snagged on branches. No signs she veered off the path. Investigators consider every possibility. Accidental fall into a crevasse or steep drop-off hidden by snow patches. Exposure after getting lost in sudden weather. Even wildlife encounter, though rare on that trail. Michelle had no history of mental health issues. No known enemies. Her life in nearby Vail was stable. A job she loved, friends, weekend adventures. Friends describe her as methodically cautious, always prepared with extra water, a map, and a whistle. The search lasts weeks, then scales back to occasional flyovers. By winter, heavy snow buries the mountain. Officially, Michelle is listed as missing, presumed lost to the wilderness. Her family holds out hope longer than most. They fund private searches in summer 2006. Nothing turns up. Nearly 20 years pass. The case fades into Colorado hiking lore. One of those unexplained mountain mysteries whispered around campfires. Then, in 2024, hikers on a routine ascent make a grim discovery. Partial skeletal remains are found in a remote ravine, miles off the main trail. DNA testing confirms it is Michelle Vanek. The news breaks quietly at first, then gains traction through local outlets and hiking forums. How did her remains end up there? The ravine is steep but not impassable. No obvious trauma on the bones. Death likely from exposure or injury sustained in a fall. In 2025, the Washington Post publishes a deep investigative piece. 20 years after a hiker disappeared, her family is left with questions. Reporters revisit the trail with GPS data, interview the original companion, and consult forensic experts. Key revelations emerge. The friend admits they were ahead by 10 to 15 minutes, not seconds, longer than initially reported. No foul play evidence, but the gap allows for scenarios like Michelle twisting an ankle, falling behind, and tumbling unseen. Her backpack was never found, suggesting animals scattered gear over time. The Post timeline shows Michelle likely survived hours, maybe a day, before succumbing. Rescuers may have been within shouting distance but never heard her. Online, the story reignites debates about solo versus group hiking safety. Reddit's r/unresolved mysteries dissects trail maps, weather reports from October 2005. TikTok videos overlay Michelle's age-progressed image with drone footage of the ravine. Families of other missing hikers share stories, turning it into a broader conversation about benign wilderness deaths, tragedies without malice, just nature's indifference. What lingers is the human element. Michelle's sister tells the Post, "We always imagined her calling for help, waiting for rescue. Knowing she was alone down there, it's worse." As of 2025, Michelle Vanek's death is classified as accidental, likely from injuries and exposure. Her remains receive a proper burial. The case file closes, technically solved after 2 decades, but closure eludes her family. The exact sequence, what caused the fall, how long she endured, remains reconstruction, not certainty. 3 questions persist, even with remains recovered. First, what precise moment sent Michelle off the trail? A misstep, a loose rock, or momentary distraction? Second, why did searchers miss her for 20 years in an area they combed repeatedly? Third, in a mountain that claims lives yearly, does Michelle's story change how we prepare for routine hikes? Michelle Vanek's disappearance and delayed discovery underscores the mountain's dual nature. Beautiful, but brutally unforgiving. One unseen slip. 20 years of wondering, resolved only when the earth finally gave her back, leaving a family with answers that feel more like echoes than truth.